What's up, fam? It's Brian Castrillo. Just watched the season finale of Daredevil episode 9 titled Straight to Hell, and holy shit, they went out with a bang. This was an amazing episode, and my goodness. But there will be spoilers when we talk about it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's talk about it. Let's have fun with it. Now, right from the beginning, we're kind of rehashing how Matt is feeling useless, and no matter what he does as Matt or Daredevil, that he thinks that he's basically doing it for nothing, and it doesn't mean anything anymore. Then we get a flashback where Vanessa is visiting Poindexter. This happens about a year ago, before even Fisk came back. And she even tells him that she hasn't seen him in a while, but she brings some papers where she's getting him released. But because she did that, she wants him, she's basically putting a hit out on Foggy Nelson and his client Benjamin Nafaro. So now we know Vanessa was behind this whole thing. And then we go to see Matt, and he's in the hospital, and he's talking to Kirsten and Heather. Now, Heather, as time went on, I really started to not like this woman, and he's trying to tell her about Fisk, and she's basically not believing him. Of course, him being on drugs right now is not helping that situation. Right after that, we see Fisk, and he's talking to his people, his inner circle, and telling them that he wants the city shut down. He wants the bridges, the tunnels, everything shut down because he does not want vigilantes getting away. He wants them wiped out. And he, after everyone leaves the room after talking to them, he stops Buck and he tells them, what is Matt's condition? And he tells him, and he says something really interesting. He tells Buck, a dead hero is better than a live vigilante. Essentially telling him that he wants a hit put on Matt. He wants him taken out. And so, Buck shows up at the hospital, and the entire power grid goes down. Chaos is going on. He's walking in with this little care package. I think there was a teddy bear. It says, "Get well soon." And he pulls out this little syringe as he's walking in with the chaos going on. And Matt's, he's already gone, but we did see him walk away. And then, of course, the Punisher shows up, and he's got, the Punisher as we know him. He's no longer got the long hair and everything. It's his hair short, the beard's gone, and he comes in and he's being Punisher funny, and he's like, he's just talking shit to him, and he asks him, why would you take a bullet for that piece of shit like that, talking about Fisk. And Matt says, that's a damn good question, because he doesn't really even know why he chose to do it. After that, these cops show up and these are all the corrupt cops. And this is probably my favorite scene in the whole thing, because you're getting a great parallel between the characters of Daredevil and the Punisher. Now, Daredevil has sort of a moral compass where he refuses to kill anybody, where the Punisher really doesn't give a shit, because he doesn't like you, and he considers you, a bad apple, piece of shit, or whatever, or trash, because of some of the things you chose to do. He's going to take you out. He is going to end you. And they're going back and forth in this incredibly amazing choreographed but violent fight. And, Daredevil is telling him, no, Frank, you can't do that, while he's fighting these corrupt cops. And Frank is just, he is taking these people out left and right. And then one of the cops, we find out, is actually the one who took out White Tiger, and even has they figure it out because he has some of his casings with the Punisher symbol on it. And Frank's, sitting back there saying, just take him out. You're going to let him live? And Matt doesn't want to do it, but he doesn't, he knocks him out with his baton, and he wants to kill him in that moment, but he ends up not doing it. And then, someone drops a grenade in there, and they jump off the roof, land on a car, and Karen pulls up and, asks them to come with her. And I was so glad to see Karen show up, because we find out that Karen was the one who called in the Punisher basically to protect him and look out for him. Immediately after that, we see Daniel Blake, and he's grilling, the city council about loyalty and talking about the money that they were making on the side, as if the Punisher is really any better. But he's basically saying that we want loyalty. We know what you did, and if not, we'll get rid of you guys if you're not by our side. Now the city is in chaos. You see, BB Urick talking to the people and just showing the city just falling apart. Police corruption. You see now where Matt is, asking Karen about Frank, and he wants to go to this evidence room, because we learned that Foggy Nelson, filed a lot of stuff. So after when they're about ready to go look at this evidence room, Frank says he doesn't care, but Karen says, I know you better than that. That's not really true. And Frank basically said, you asked me for a favor and I did it. And she's like, you're right. Thank you. So they go off, and we find out that essentially the port is going to be used for money laundering because there's no taxes. They can kind of get away with everything. Vanessa was storing art there and just making a lot of money, and now they're trying to make billions, and basically they're able to money launder legally now with the way Fisk, as the mayor, has everything set up. After that, Frank shows up where the cops are, and this was another violent fight scene with the Punisher. He's taking out the cops. The first cop who was on watch, he took him out, and again, this is incredibly violent, as the Punisher should be. And he's, fighting all these cops who eventually, knock him out and tie him down. And they got him, Powell has him, facing him. And then after that, the commissioner shows up, and we see him with with Fisk and all these other corrupt cops, and we're getting a parallel between what's going on with these. And essentially, they're telling Frank, the cops where he's at, that they admire him and they look up to him, and they want him to basically, they're saying it would be an honor if they would fight with him. And of course, Frank Castle isn't having any of that. And then they start beating him up, and each individual cop is fighting, coming up to Frank Castle as he's sitting in the chair tied up, just punch him in the face, taking him out. And then one of the most gruesome scenes that I've ever seen, probably on television, and this includes the stuff like The Walking Dead. The Fisk has the commissioner's head in his hands, and if you have seen some of the comics, this guy's incredibly strong. He literally crushes his head in between his hands. His jaw kind of breaks off that way. His face kind of is pushed off. It is gruesome. Viewer discretion advised if you haven't seen that. But now we see Matt. He's talking to Karen at the dock. We see the cops are everywhere, and Matt says, we're going to need an army to basically take back the city. And there is a little song, if you didn't pay attention. I'm going to come back to that in a second. But now we see Fisk. He has Heather, and I knew I didn't like her, that she would now work for him. So that's kind of interesting. I wonder what Matt's going to say when he talks to Heather again. Now we see Fisk. He's given a speech to the public through TV. He basically says vigilanteism is illegal, and there's going to be a curfew at 8 p.m., and now there is martial law. But he says he loves New York. I don't know how much he loves New York when he's putting him under martial law. Matt is now telling Karen how he's not the same, and he feels like he's failing. And again, talking about how he doesn't believe in everything, and mentions Foggy, but she tells him that Foggy believed in everything that he was. And again, another thing I want to mention about this is the music in this. Perfect. Like, every song for every moment was beautiful. The soundtrack was amazing in this episode. And we see Fisk has cages under the city. And one of them, we see Jack Duquesne in there, and a bunch of other people that I'm not sure who everyone was. I didn't catch them all, but we do see the Punisher is tied up in these cages, these little makeshift prisons, and he's chained up in there, and he's walking through with Vanessa, and then they're they decide to have a dinner and they're celebrating. Matt is now after that. We see Matt, and he's narrating, and he's talking about taking back the city. And it's interesting. We see like a lot of the cops who may not be with Fisk, or they don't feel like they are. And you just see the expressions on their face. And then at the end, there is a post-credit scene, and we see Frank, and he's talking to a cop who clearly, looks up to him. And this cop has to be the dumbest mother effer because Frank basically says, can I shake your hand? And just as he does, he grabs his hand, he crushes it, pulls it into the little makeshift prison that he has, breaks his arm, and he gets the keys. So now we know he's released, and he's going to be coming back. But what did you guys think of it? I love this episode. It was amazing. Great series. I have another video talking about my total thoughts, but love you.